Good afternoon, children. It appears as though we need some extra practice on some redox reactions. So I pulled a few off the interwebs that we can go through real fast. Well, maybe not real fast. Well, at a medium speed. Something like that. So what I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to zoom in here on my new awesome softwares so that we can take a look at one of these reactions. That looks good. So we have a couple of guys here. We've got silver nitrate is going to go to, or silver plus nitrate ion is going to make the silver ion plus some nitrogen monoxide. So the first thing we need to do is identify our oxidation numbers. Silver is a metal and an element all by its lonesome. Therefore, his oxidation number is going to be 0. Then we have the nitrate ion. When it comes to nitrogen, you do not know its oxidation number, so we'll come back to it. Our oxygen is always going to be a -2. If I have 3 of them, I now have a -6 charge. I need to get up to -1 because that's the name of the game for this ion. In order to get from -6 to -1, my nitrogen is going to become +5. Then I come over here to the silver ion. Since it's an ion by itself, the name of the game is the charge. So this one's going to be a +1. Then over here we have another nitrogen that we need to wait on. This oxygen, again, always going to be -2. This nitrogen ends up being +2. So then there's some things we just don't need to get started here. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the oxygens. Okay, so now we just have our 2 to look through. We need to decide which one is going to be our redox or our reduction, and we start with the oxidation. So I'll do them in the same order so that you are used to them. So first one is going to be oxidation, the next one is going to be redox, and then eventually we'll fill in an overall down at the bottom. So then when we get into this, there we go. Our oxidation is getting more positive. So if we look at these, +5 to +2 is not really going to do it for us. So we're going to go from 0 to +1. So again, we start in the middle, and let's write out the skeleton here. We have silver to the silver ion. Okay, we're going from 0 to +1, which means in order to balance out, we need to add an electron to the right here. So then now I have 0 on the left and 0 on the right. Then I'm going to go ahead and write out my next skeleton. I have NO3 minus. And again, we did both of the half reactions, and then we went back and balanced the electrons. But if it works easier for you to think through that first one and then go through and do the second one, that works too. So then we have this nitrate ion where our nitrogen is a +5, and then we have our nitrogen monoxide where our nitrogen is +2. In order to get us closer to being even, we need to add 3 electrons to the left. So then we're at +5 minus 3 is +2, and then on the right is +2. Alright, our next job is to take care of our ninja oxygens. Okay, so on the left hand side we have 3 oxygens, and on the right hand side we have 1. So what we need to do is add 3 waters to the right, so that will give us 3 more oxygens. I lied. Not 3 oxygens, we need 3 total. So what we need to do is add 2 waters to the right. So then that's 2 oxygens plus the 1 gives me 3. That did also add how many hydrogens to the right? You should be saying 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. So then over to the left, we have 4 hydrogen ions plus, and that would go kind of right here, because I didn't start with enough room. So in doing all of this, We can't quite put them together yet because we're supposed to locate these electrons, and in order to sew our patient back up, those electrons need to be equal. Our reduction reaction is our 3, and then our oxidation has 1, so then our entire oxidation really needs to be multiplied by 3 so that they can be equal. So then when we go back and we write our overall down here at the bottom, we can start with 3 silvers. Since we just hit our arrow, we drop down to the next line. We have 4 hydrogen ions plus, those cross out, our nitrate ion. Then we have to go all the way back up to the top. Don't forget that. Once you hit this arrow, you go back up. So then we have 3 silver ions. Hit the end of that line, plus nitrogen monoxide plus 2 waters is your overall reaction. If you got that, go ahead and give yourself a round of applause.
I'm going to go through the redox reaction balancing steps a little slower with y'all. Step 1, assign oxidation numbers. This means you may have to open your packets up to look at the chart. When we start with the reactants, zinc is a lonely or uncombined element, therefore has an oxidation number of 0. Then in the nitrate ion, the nitrogen is unknown. We will have to use our MVP oxygen, which always has what? Clearly, every one of you said -2. We'll have to use it to find nitrogen. Just like the last problem, the formal charge changes the name of the game to -1. So to get from -2 3 times, or -6 to -1, nitrogen needs to be +5. On the product side of the reaction, the zinc ion will use its formal charge, +2, for its oxidation number. And then again for the ammonium ion, we will use the other element, hydrogen, with a +1 to find nitrogen's oxidation number, because we cannot assume that it's the same as it was on the reactant side. Since the name of the game for polyatomic ions is the formal charge, and the hydrogen is +1 4 times, or +4, nitrogen will end up having a -3 oxidation number, so that +4 minus 3 equals the formal charge, +1.
Once we've established our oxidation numbers, we can go ahead and set up our problem here. We've got a reduction, an oxidation, and an overall. Okay? Alright, in looking at our reduction reaction, we're trying to get more positive. So my zinc goes from 0 to +2, because our step 2 is to split into half reactions. So 0 to +2 is definitely getting more positive, so I can start by writing down that half reaction here. Zinc goes to my zinc ion, so then I need to split into my oxidation reaction. Since nitrogen changes on both sides, oxygen does not and hydrogen does not, they're just going to tag along for the ride. So I have my nitrate ion. You'll have to excuse the music in the background as we stopped for lunch in New Orleans. And there's some wonderful Zydeco while we're out in the French Quarter. So here we go. Now I have 2 half reactions and I need to balance with electrons. So I have, for my zinc, a 0 charge on the left and a +2 on the right. In order to get 0 on both sides, since I can only add negative things to it, I can add 2 electrons on the right hand side. Okay? And my next one, I go from a +5 to a -3. So in order to get those equal, I'm going to go to 5 plus 3. I'll have to add 8 electrons for these to be equal. Okay, so if you'll see here, that's -8 plus 5 is -3, and the other side is -3, because we can't add any more. Okay, we've balanced the electrons. Now we're gonna need to balance our ninjas. We have some oxygens on the left. Let's take care of those first, because our step 3 is to add water so that our oxygens are balanced. So, how many oxygens do we have on the left? We have 3. On the right, we have 0. So on the right, we'll go ahead and we'll add a couple of waters here. We've got, I guess that's more than a couple, that's more like a few, 3 waters. Okay, so that is 3 oxygens on the right and 3 oxygens on the left. Now we need to go back and balance our hydrogens. We've got 3 times 2, that's 6, plus the 4 from our ammonium ion. So that's 10. So on the left, we need to go ahead and we're going to add 10 hydrogen ions. And that'll go kind of right here in front of that guy. So now we've balanced both our oxygens via water and our hydrogens via some ions. And our last remaining step here before we can sew our patient back up is to balance out our electrons so that we can add our 2 reactions together. If you'll notice at the top here we have 2 electrons, and down here in our second one we have 8 electrons. What can we do to get those to be equal? You should all be really jumping up and down and being like, Miss Fisher, guess what we do? This is what we do. You're going to multiply that top one by 4, because 2 times 4 is 8. So once we multiply it by 4, we can cross out these electrons here. We're not going to need them. So let's go ahead and sew our patient back up down here at the bottom. Alright now, so we start here at the top. We have the zinc, and we have him 4 times. So we can start with 4 zinc plus, since we have the arrow here, we can go ahead and start on our next row. We have 10, count them, 10 hydrogen ions plus, then we don't need our electrons because they cancel out with our electrons in the top row. Then we have our nitrate ion here. Then we have the arrow here, which means we need to go back up to the top and start here. We have 4 zinc ions. We don't need those electrons, and we can go back down to our second row. And we have our ammonium ion plus 3 waters. And that's it, guys. Finished it up. If you need some more help, I'll make another one here a little bit later, and you guys can watch that one. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the rest of your 3-day weekend.